So we've all been hearing about the power of AI agents, right? But the real cutting edge stuff, it isn't about building one single super agent. It's about building a team, a really sophisticated collaborative system where specialized agents all work together to tackle truly complex problems. And that brings up a really important question. When you're trying to build something powerful and complex with AI, what's the single biggest pitfall you need to avoid? Well, the answer might not be what you think. And here it is, the one agent to rule them all approach. You know, the idea of a single all-knowing AI, it sounds great in theory, but in reality, these monolithic agents, they just become brittle, confusing, and pretty much impossible to scale effectively. They just crumble under their own weight. This really lays out the two different paths you can take. On one side, you've got that monolithic agent. It often struggles, it can be inaccurate, and scaling it is a real headache. But on the other side, you've got the multi-agent system. Now you're talking scalable, you're talking higher fidelity results, and you have so much more control over the whole process. Okay, so let's meet the team. We're moving away from the single brain concept to a whole collaborative unit. And to really get how this works, we need to wrap our heads around three fundamental ideas that make these AI teams so incredibly powerful. First up, decentralized control. This is absolutely crucial. There is no single boss agent, no central command dictating every single move. Nope. Each agent in the system has the autonomy to make its own decisions based on the information it has right in front of it. You know, a perfect way to think about this is a flock of birds. There's no single leader bird telling all the others where to turn. Each bird is just following a few simple rules based on its neighbors. And yet, what you get is this beautiful, complex, coordinated pattern. That is decentralized control in action. The second big concept is the local view. All this means is that each agent doesn't have this godlike view of the entire system. It only knows what's immediately relevant to its job, what's right there in its immediate environment. Here's a great way to picture it. Imagine you're in a massive, packed stadium. You can't see what's happening on the other side of the field, right? You just react to the people directly around you. AI agents in a team work the exact same way. They operate based on their own limited local information. And this is where the magic really happens. When you combine that decentralized control with these local views, you get something called emergent behavior. It's amazing. All these simple individual actions and decisions suddenly combine to solve these huge global problems that no single agent could have ever figured out on its own. So that's the theory. But how do we actually build this? Let's walk through the evolution of an AI team, starting with our very first attempt. We'll call this one the inefficient project manager, and you're about to see why. The initial idea seems pretty logical. We build a trip planner. It's got a main coordinator, a route agent, and its job is to manage a team of specialists. One for flights, one for hotels, one for sightseeing. Simple delegation, right? Makes sense. And for a simple request like find me a flight, this works fine. The coordinator just passes the job to the flight agent. But what about a more complex multi-step task? What happens when you ask it to book a flight and then find a hotel? Well, this is exactly where the model breaks. And this quote just nails the problem perfectly. The coordinator is a fantastic receptionist. It's great at greeting you and directing your first request to the right specialist. But it's a terrible project manager because it just can't handle a sequence of tasks. So here's the core of the problem. When the coordinator delegates to the flight agent, it completely hands over control. It's out of the loop. It has no memory of the second part of the request. The workflow just grinds to a halt right then and there. So that failure, it forces the first major evolution. We have to move beyond simple delegation and learn how to truly orchestrate a workflow. It's time to give our manager a serious upgrade. The solution requires a fundamental shift in how we think about this. Instead of treating the specialists as sub-agents that you just hand a job off to, we start treating them as tools in the coordinator's toolbox. You can even see this shift right in the code, moving from sub-agents to tools. And this is a complete game changer. Now the coordinator stays in charge. It can use the flight tool, get the result back, and then use the hotel tool, all while keeping the context of the original request. It has finally become a real project manager. Okay, so our system is now handling complex workflows. It's smart. But a new problem pops up: speed. It finds the flight, then it finds the hotel. But wait a minute, those two tasks are totally independent. Why can't it do them at the same time? The answer is the next evolution, the parallel agent. This is a brilliant little component that allows the system to identify tasks that don't depend on each other, like booking a flight and a hotel, and just run them concurrently. This dramatically speeds up the whole process. All right, we have a smart system, and now it's a fast system. But there's one final piece missing. How do we know the final output is actually any good? This leads to the final stage of evolution, creating a self-regulating system that can check its own work. So here's how it works. We add a feedback loop with two new agents. First, a trip summary reviewer acts as a quality control specialist. It reads the final trip plan and gives it a simple pass or fail. Then, a validate trip summary agent checks that verdict and either delivers the final approved output or flags that there was a failure. And this shows our fully evolved workflow. It gets sightseeing info first, then it runs the flight and hotel searches in parallel. It creates a summary, and crucially, it ends with that two-step review and validation process. It's an efficient, intelligent, self-regulating team. So to wrap it all up, here is your playbook for building an effective AI team. First, specialize. Create focused expert agents. Second, orchestrate. Give a manager a toolbox of agents to conduct a workflow. Third, parallelize. Run independent tasks at the same time for speed. And finally, review. Build in a feedback loop for quality assurance. The key takeaway here is that your AI doesn't have to be a single monolithic brain. It can be a dynamic team of specialists. And that opens up a whole world of possibilities. So the only question left is, what kind of team will you build?